All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Lowell Amos. I am Director of AMS, which includes the United States and Canada, for our ServiceNow Customer Outcomes team, and specifically, I represent Expert Services, which is presumably why you're all here, is to hear a little bit more about Expert Services. I've been with ServiceNow for about 10 years now, so I've got some time in. Here at ServiceNow, we always say that it's like dog years because our company has grown so quickly. And it's been, for me professionally, it's been quite a ride to be a part of, a high growth software company. So that's who I am. I'll give you a couple more pieces of information about myself as we go. But what we're here to talk about today is how to accelerate the implementation of your ServiceNow solutions. And that specifically is focused on a service group within ServiceNow called Expert Services. And we'll talk more about what that is and what that means in just a few seconds. But before we do, I have to show this slide. This is our safe harbor notice and for forward-looking statements. I won't read this to you, but if you're super interested or an attorney, feel free to grab a screenshot. This presentation will also be posted online and the recording available to you. But basically, this says that if I say anything that isn't true or is forward-looking, there's nothing anybody can do about it. So without any questions on that, we'll move on. This is a series of webinars that ServiceNow provides on a variety of topics. We also have meetups, which is kind of where we virtually or directly meet and talk about different topics. So feel free to take a picture of that QR code and you can see all the schedules of everything that we have planned. And I believe there's a link also in the chat. So if this webinar is your first one, I hope you find it interesting and will be interested in others. If it's not, then feel free to click the link and look at the schedule of what's upcoming. That might be product-centric or services-centric for all the things ServiceNow can provide to you free of charge to help you derive value from our platform. Just as we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping items. There is an opportunity to have Q&A at the end of this session. You're all muted right now just because there's a lot of you, and if there's background noise, that can kind of be distracting. But we will open up for Q&A at the end, and one of my colleagues will be monitoring that. So we'll try to get all your questions answered in the last 10 or 15 minutes of this session. There is a Q&A link within the Zoom window. Hopefully you're all familiar with that or can figure it out. If not, send one of our hosts a note and we'll be sure and get you sorted. Like I said, the presentation will be recorded and we'll share that on the ServiceNow community so that if you want to review it, you're more than willing to do that. And we do ask after the event if you'll take a quick short survey just for feedback so that we can continually improve these webinars as we move forward. We do this exclusively for our customer set. And so anything that you tell us is taken to heart and we try and, adjust and make these better as we go. As professionals, we should all do. So with that brings us to, first of all, thank you for joining. You've decided to invest an hour of your day into listening to some of the things that we have put together for you. So I appreciate that. Again, my name is Lowell Amos. I am the director for Expert Services for the AMS region. And I have kind of a unique perspective, I think, than maybe not unique, but certainly diverse experience at ServiceNow in that my entire career has been spent in the services side of our business. And I've held a variety of roles and have managed large-scale engagements, probably going on 100 now. In my career here before taking a leadership role where I support and advise 50 or 60 of our go-to-market team across the US and Canada. So I think one of the reasons that, I was asked to give this talk is I have seen a lot of the good and the bad and the ugly that's out there and want to share you mostly the good and what good looks like. So, as any presentation, this is kind of a framing slide to talk about that word called implementation. And our friends over at McKinsey have a quote: "The potential for value loss in a digital transformation project begins as early as day one with the largest share of the value being lost during implementation. And I think that is kind of a self-evident statement in some ways. But I think when you think about it, it's really, really important to consider the importance that implementation plays in the value realization equation. So why is that? And, a lot of people, can scratch their head and think about that. But when you first go through a digital transformation journey, certainly software is an important component of that. But an equally important component is the organizational change and the process re-engineering work that has to go on in order to change the way people work. And that's fundamentally what a digital transformation is changing the way work is seen, consumed, reported against, and done to get a better, faster, and cheaper result. And implementation is how that vision of better, faster, and cheaper altogether is realized over time. And I think there's oftentimes a gap in understanding as we move forward to think about how we envision the future. And then the reality is there's an inertia to stay where we are. And that's just a normal part of being a human is we kind of abhor change. And there is a great deal of opportunity to want to recreate what you already have within the ServiceNow platform, or to create requirements and implementation configurations that at best make no sense, or at worst are inconsistent with the vision and the business value that you're trying to create. So one of the things, the biggest challenges around implementation is how do I do it in a way that truly transforms and gets me the business results that I want? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because ServiceNow Expert Services does one thing. It does it very, very well. But we are focused on one thing, and that is being world-class at implementing our software so that you get the business result that you want. And that is the only thing we focus on, and it's the only thing we do. So pop quiz, we have a poll question. Before today, how many of you have heard or knew that ServiceNow had an organization called Expert Services? I'm going to take a second to give everybody a chance to respond because I'm very curious about the answer to this. We're running neck and neck on 50-50. All right, click yes or no. We got 10 seconds. All right, so where we stand right this second, 55% of the group has not heard of ServiceNow's Expert Services, and 45% have. And that's not terribly inconsistent with what I thought. We're one of those best kept secrets in the ServiceNow world. We do have a lot of folks that are dedicated only to doing implementation excellence. So we'll talk a little bit more about that now. So since many of you have not heard about Expert Services, what the heck is it, right? So really what Expert Services is part of an organization called Customer Outcomes. There are 3 arms of services within Customer Outcomes. Expert Services is one of them. And what it's really, really focused on is turning your strategy and vision into what we call update sets or configurations so that the software actually instantiates the workflows and business processes that you want from a perspective of value creation. So if you think about a process, and for those of you that are IT professionals, the incident management process is always a good example because almost everyone's familiar with it. This is what we do. We take this vision of what an incident management process might look like. We have optimized it to be world-class across the world and of the entire body of knowledge of ITIL and IT for IT. And we have built that within our platform. And what Expert Services does is take that generic process and configure it to meet the needs of your specific business. And that might be reporting needs. It might be SLA targets. It might be ticket routing rules. But all of those things are really decisions around requirements that you have to make about how you want your incident process to look like. And what we would suggest is that you start with the out-of-the-box process and then configure it appropriately. Oftentimes people ask us, well, what is everyone else doing? And that's one of the big pieces of value that expert services can bring to the table, is that, worldwide we have, 1,000+ professionals that's all they do is have the best practice from a business process and technical expertise of how to best instantiate workflows within your platform, whether that be, incident problem and change, an HR service delivery function, or some other workflow dealing with customers, or really any other workflow that you can imagine. So having said that, these are kind of the services that we offer. We offer ServiceNow product expertise. We have very, very deep understanding of our product, as we should, since we wrote the beast. And we also spend a lot of time making sure that our business consultants and our technical consultants are certified and are current on our technology and any innovations that are coming out. I know generative AI is a big topic right now. And we have professionals in all of those spaces, whether it be, ITSM, which is something we've been doing for a long time, or something new like generative AI, where we ensure that our product experts are up to date and current on the latest and greatest release in how to implement and instantiate those technologies within your organization. We also have an unmatched track record for success. Expert Services is not a new organization within ServiceNow. It's been around here since, I think, before we went public in 2011, has been a critical component of how we support our customers. We have done thousands of engagements across the world. Like I said, I've been involved personally probably in like 100. We also have collected a library of leading practices. And right now we're at like 11 or 1,200 of those leading practices that we keep in a library called Create Now. And we'll talk a little bit more about those assets and how you might leverage and make use of them. And likewise, we have a very robust methodology that's on its, fourth or fifth iteration of how to actually step-by-step work through a ServiceNow implementation from, I've got a great idea, all the way through to my software's now up and running. And we are actually deriving value from the implementation. So this is what ServiceNow Expert Services does. And we'll talk a little bit more about the teams and how we do what we do in just a couple of seconds. We also have multiple implementation models. And I think this is really important. A lot of people ask me, well, I've got partners. There's a lot of people out there that are certified in ServiceNow implementation practices. How do you guys all fit together and what makes you different? And we actually have two different engagement models, depending on who you are, of how we might collaborate. One is what we call co-delivery. And this is where you maybe already have an implementation partner that is, works with you on your ServiceNow implementation, but maybe it's a new product and you would like ServiceNow to have a seat at the table so that you can get advice on new product features, or upgrade paths, et cetera. So we have a collaborative methodology that we work directly with our partners. We actually publish all of our assets out to our partner ecosystem so that they can work with us to infuse all of that ServiceNow expertise into the implementation project. So that's a co-delivery approach, and that oftentimes happens, particularly if a run partner is involved. So if you're an organization that leverages one of the large GSIs as a run partner and you're implementing a new product or even implementing ServiceNow for the first time, it's oftentimes too advantageous and valuable to have both partners working together. Us from a product and architecture and engineering point of view, and then partners from a, how am I going to manage and run this in the long run? The other model is ServiceNow led. And that's where we work directly with you from end to end. So we're kind of a soup to nuts white glove white glove service solution, where we will plan and execute an engagement with you, and then train your folks to be able to take over the implementation afterwards, or deliver it to a partner of your choice to do run state support. So oftentimes the ServiceNow-led engagement is really just an opportunity where you can work with us directly, and we have a little bit more accountability into the implementation. And then we will work with your internal teams or your partner teams and guide them through what good looks like. So there are multiple ways to work with expert services, depending on who you are and what your situation is. And there'll be lots of folks that'll be interested in talking to you about that, after today. In the co-delivery world, I think I covered most of this already, but we, kind of natively complement the expertise of your team and your partners. Again, all of our methods and tools are published out to our partner community. We are not a consulting firm. We are a software company, but Expert Services is the consulting division that manages implementations within that software company. And what we find is we want to, our interest is focused on getting you the benefits of the ServiceNow platform as quickly and as agilely as possible. We also have all those best practices within that Now Create library that you can take advantage of. Again, ServiceNow implementation, I think I've talked through most of this, is it's value driven and aligned with your business goals. We have the trusted technical expertise and can create that healthy foundation for growth and innovation. Platform health is a really important topic that comes up a lot these days. And therefore, it's really important that you have the right architecture and guidance from the beginning and are using the products as intended and as designed. From a ServiceNow implementation or led implementation, we have the people, the practices, and the processes. Again, that's just a function of the fact that we have the engineering and design specs in the back office, as well as all the people that are trained and maintained and focused on only implementing ServiceNow and its products. We have the best practices from how was this originally intended to be designed, and then the processes through our Now Create implementation methodology to de-risk implementations as much as humanly possible. We also offer project-based services. I've been focused primarily on the center one, which is implementation services, but we also offer advisory services. And this is where we may have, a master architect or an industry expert come work with you to talk about, what is the right vision for your organization of how to best leverage ServiceNow in the context of the rest of your enterprise architecture. An example of that might be at a large pharmaceutical company who are managing clinical trials. How can I leverage the ServiceNow not to replace another platform or tool that's doing clinical trial work, but how can I augment those solutions so that the workflow and the reporting and the front end is more optimized for my end users. We have advisory teams that are either technical or industry experts that can come in and lead those discussions and have conversations with you. Implementation services, I think that's well covered. We've talked about that for better part of 20 minutes now. This is about moving your strategy and vision into configured update sets within the platform. And then this last one is optimization and remediation services. This is becoming much more common in our portfolio of services, particularly after customers have been on the platform for a long time. So when oftentimes the platform changes hands several times internally as far as who the organizational leaders are, or maybe even the strategy or roadmap has changed significantly. And there are challenges to get from where you used to be to where you'd like to go. This might be because of technical debt. It might be because of poor coding standards that somehow sneaked into the system. It might be because the process is just not optimal. So we can come in and help you remediate and look either technically or from a process perspective about how you might be able to make improvements. Again, this is a growing part of our business as our platform expands outside of the boundaries of just IT and HR into really all workplace services, as well as customer service. There's a lot of questions about how do we rethink our processes end to end. When I joined ServiceNow, we focused primarily on incident, problem, and change, catalog, request, eventually, project management and CMDB. Now we're having conversations around how do I manage my hire to retire process across the enterprise? How do I optimize, order to cash? So these mega enterprise processes are bringing new conversations that may require rethinking of the process world. So those are the three different services that we offer. This is a slide on Now Create, which is that library that I described of what are the best practices. So the cornerstone is really our methodology, and it underpins everything we do in expert services, whether that be in optimization services, implementation, or advisory services. Our goal is to make it empowering to the end users and the configures of the platform so that it's easy to understand and consume, and it's focused on business outcomes, not technical outcomes. And last but not least, there is this step-by-step approach to how to get from A to B. And here is that step-by-step approach. This really isn't all that provocative. It's a 5-phased implementation methodology. And a lot of methodologies like this exist in the world, but it consists of initiate, plan, execute, deliver, and close. So initiate is really where we get organized and mobilize resources and teams and set up the project governance. That's a critical success factor to ensure that you have the right rules of the road laid out. Plan is about conducting those process engineering workshops where you can identify all of your requirements. Execute is our agile scrum implementation approach where we actually put hands on the keyboard and configure the platform, and then testing and go live. Again, not going to spend a lot of time here because I want to make sure we have time for the Q&A, but this is our method. Who are experts? People ask me this all the time. Okay, well, this sounds great, but tell me more. Who are the people that are going to actually do this work? Here are the 6 roles that we've defined that are a part of almost any implementation. Engagement manager is kind of the quarterback and your single point of contact for all things project related. Your business process consultant is your expert in the process and the process optimization, whether that be incident, problem, and change, or HR onboarding, or vulnerability and risk response. Those are the people who are deeply specialized in how the process should work and what needs to be configured for your specific environment. The technical consultant, I call them the smart people. They're the ones who put their hands on the keyboard and can write JavaScript and configure the platform to make it do what we want it to do. And then there's a layer of oversight in the program director and practice director. Those are typically engaged for large multi-workflow programs. So for instance, I had a client recently want to re-engineer their global business function. So it included hire to retire, order to cash, and supply chain optimization. We created a program office, and the program director and practice director were the leadership of that, with multiple engagement managers reporting up to them. And last but not least is the solution architect. And those are the folks that understand the data model and the underlying functions within the platform as it relates to availability and performance and security, and some of the elements of warranty, if you're familiar with the concept of utility and warranty. The results, this is a pretty good, I guess, testimonial for expert services. Typically, we have very good NPS scores for customers that leverage and use expert services. We have 3,000 plus certifications across our billable team members. So where I said we had multiple thousands of people, about 70% of those are billable. and they hold over 3,000 certifications. And we've done around 8,500 and counting, probably more since this slide was published, successful implementations using Now Create and the methodology, and we've done this in 50 plus countries. Poll question 2. Let's this is specific to you. Go ahead and take 30 seconds and answer this question. What issues are you facing with the implementation of your ServiceNow solutions, if any? We need Jeopardy music. 15 more seconds. All right, we've got about half. You can continue to answer this, and I'll just chat for a second about the results so far. It looks like the winner right now is I don't know how much it will cost. So we can address that in the Q&A, but in general, every account in our account list, that means if you're on this call and you're a customer, you have one of these, has access to a services account executive, and they would be more than happy to spend some time with you to give you a level of effort of how much it will cost. The second leading question or concern is I don't have access to the right resources, and that is challenging. The resource contention for ServiceNow skilled people is very high. Again, I would answer it with the same way. If you are having a struggle getting the right resources, reach out to your services team. And if you don't know who that is, we'll tell you how to get a hold of them in the Q&A section. But they will help you figure out how to get the right resources and figure out what an implementation might cost. The last question is, it didn't apply to me, or I don't know how to get started. If you don't know how to get started, you've taken the first step, which is spending an hour with me. But a very valuable second step would be to, again, meet with your account team and talk about implementation specifically. And hopefully all of you know who your account team is. All right, let's go ahead and close the poll. We got about a 50% response rate. We'll take that. So again, why partner with expert services? I think, there's a variety of reasons, but some of them came up in the poll. I can't seem to advance the slide. There it is. The poll's closed now. So here's kind of our motto inside of expert services. We want to provide our customers with the right plan, the right design, and the right team. And that gets to some of the challenges that you guys just listed. One of the things expert services can do that is, differentiated from a lot of folks in the marketplace is that we have access to our, the people that wrote the software and the product roadmap and engineering teams. That can be invaluable and has been in many of the places that I've been. In fact, we're very, very open to listening to our clients that are trying to implement a product. If there's a gap in our out-of-the-box, processes, and we haven't accounted for something, our engineering team is actually looking for those opportunities to build things into the product. So I worked with a client on the East Coast. They had a business requirement to do some risk scoring that was going to require extensive configuration. And our product team actually took that on and built it natively into a version of the product in the future. So that's one way, one of the values. The other is just having access to understanding what was in the mind of the engineer when they designed it, right? So am I using this correctly? Extensive training. We have immediate access to all of our new products and also all of our legacy products because no one was born with ServiceNow knowledge. We all had to learn it. So we have a world-class training library and education team that focuses exclusively on our products. So that might be everything from how to use the software to how to implement and design it, all the way up to we offer a certified master architect program, which is kind of the highest level of certification that we offer for those that are truly implementation world-class experts. We also have a wide partner ecosystem. Again, I started with this presentation with ServiceNow is not a consulting firm. We are a software organization, and we need our partner ecosystem to be healthy and robust throughout the world so that we can drive scale and meet all of your needs. While there's a lot of ServiceNow expert services professionals, we are a small drop in the bucket compared to the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people out there that are doing configuration work. And in fact, we're so committed to this, we recently launched a Rise Up program. And if you haven't heard about it, it was our senior leadership in the form of Bill McDermott, our CEO, has committed to educating 1 million people on the ServiceNow platform. So that is quite a commitment to the marketplace, and really the reason we're doing that is to provide you with more resources and talent so that you can make better use of our products. But these are the 3 reasons. If you are struggling with any of these issues of I need an inside perspective, I'd like better training, or I'd like to understand your partner ecosystem better, we stand here to help. Another reason, it's about accelerating time to value. One of the reasons and challenges that I see in implementations from a practical perspective is, how do I get there quick? Right? I have this business case I've developed. I've invested heavily in the ServiceNow technology. I need to start using it and getting that value that is in my vision statement. And one of the things that I've always believed in implementation, there's no faster way than the right way. So leveraging a clearly defined methodology, governance model with deep resources and expertise is often the quickest way to the end zone. So that's one of the reasons, is to accelerate that time to value. And the entire title of this presentation is about how to do that. So I would encourage you to talk to folks inside of ServiceNow on how we might be able to help you, move from vision to update set. We also have additional resources that we'll talk about. Expert services is the bottom one listed here, and there's a solution brief that you'll be able to click on when you get this presentation. But we also have other offerings. If you haven't heard of ServiceNow Impact, it is a digital experience that's built on the Now platform that works in conjunction with a team of folks to accelerate your time to value and help you manage your business outcomes and strategy so that you can look for opportunities to go faster, be more cost effective, or to adopt more. So there's a lot to Impact. If you're not aware of it, I would suggest that you spend another webinar on that topic. And if one doesn't exist, get your services account executive engaged and spend an hour with them and go through that program in detail. Training and certification, we have, again, a library called Now Learning that has hundreds, if not thousands, of courses that can be taken. Some are available free of charge. There's an investment, but there's a wide library of certifications and trainings available to you depending on your role. And again, your services account executive can help lay out learning paths for you and your team. So we've actually not only have the classes, but we have a point of view on who should take what class in what order, depending on the role you're in. So that is a valuable resource to all of you. And I see the questions are starting to come in. So we have about 20 minutes left. What questions can I answer for you? I don't know, Christelle, if you want to come up.
Yeah, hi everybody. So there was a question from Chris, and I don't know if the last thing, I guess maybe I'll just read that off to you, Lowell. So the initial question was around working with a managed services provider and how do we, expert services, differentiate ourselves, and what does an engagement look like when you have an existing MSP? And you talked to this around the co-delivery topic, right? The follow-up question from Chris, I'll read it to you verbatim. Is there a feedback between the expert services team and the core ServiceNow developers so that instead of having to build some custom functionality with sufficient value, that functionality could become a focus for the next release as out of box?
Yeah, in fact, that's where most of our innovations and enhancements from our products come from, is our customer base. Sometimes that comes out of implementation, where we notice, hey, there's a gap in the product around a particular workflow. I think I gave an example of a pharmaceutical company who did that, and we actually did release what they were looking for. I don't know if it was the next release, but within 2 releases. And there's also I can't remember the name of the program where you can actually become a design partner with ServiceNow. And that's so certainly there's a feedback loop between expert services, and there's also a feedback design partnership loop for customers who maybe aren't using expert services but still would like to provide insights to the product. How to contact your ServiceNow expert team? That's a great question. So Bharat, if you have access to your, do you know who your account executive is? The word you need to ask is, who is my services account executive, and what is their email and phone number? If you ask that question, they should be able to get back to you in less than a minute of who that person is if you don't know. If for some reason you struggle to get that, just send me a note at lowell.amos@servicenow.com and say, I'm trying to find my services account executive and I don't know who it is. And I'll make sure that you get in touch with them. But that person is a wealth of information around all of the different offerings that ServiceNow has, whether that be training and education, our impact services, and our expert services for implementation or advisory services. Did we answer the code delivery question well enough? I see it now that I'm looking at it. I see the question. Code delivery seems to suggest that MSPs may not have the same level of knowledge into the ServiceNow as the expert services team. Leadership will want to ensure we're not double dipping and paying 2 teams for the same expected services. Those are statements, not questions, but I agree with them. With the exception of, I'm not suggesting that the MSPs don't have the same level of knowledge, but there are cases where we have new products or new feature set or a new architecture where there may be some benefit in augmenting or getting a second point of view. Typically, our MSPs are very good, or they wouldn't be our MSPs. As far as the double dipping question, no question. Nobody wants to pay for the same thing twice. So don't do that. We'll be happy to work with you to lay out roles and responsibilities so that we augment and do not, do work that you're paying someone else to do, or competing with our MSP partners.
Lowell, we have another question that came in just now. Someone is asking, what is the difference between optimization and implementation services? If you can speak to that for a little bit.
Sure. I mean, really, the net of it is implementation services typically is implementing a new capability. So I've been an ITSM customer, and I'd like to expand my ServiceNow footprint to include HR service delivery. You would probably hire an implementation team to do that. Optimization is, I already have something and I think it could work better than it is. So that might be like, I'm struggling with my upgrades, right? It takes too long, it's too expensive, there's too much testing. There has to be a better way. That would be an example of optimization services. We could come in and take a look at what you're doing and say, oh, let's leverage automated test framework for regression testing. Let's look at your data model. Can we get a little closer to the common service data model, or maybe remediate, technical debt or things that were built with native features? That would be more of an example of optimization. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure who asked it, so hopefully.
Yeah, the guests are on mute, so I think you did. Another question came in, Will, and you've talked to this before, but let's talk about it again. Will this recording be shared? Will it be possible to get a copy of the slides?
Yes, it'll be on the community site, correct? Keep me honest, Christelle.
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll be able to find it on the community site. I mean, one last thing that I'll say, maybe not last thing since we have time, but we're also always looking to expand our services portfolio for the things that you find valuable. So if you say, geez, I wish you guys did this, certainly we're interested in that feedback. And I'll make a forward-looking statement since the topic of code delivery came up. We're looking right now and doing some research into how can we build an implementation design services, which would be a service offering that you could consume where ServiceNow will do the design, and then you can leverage, the partner ecosystem to do the delivery or the hands-on keyboard work. We've found a lot of customers are asking us, we want you to do the design, we want you to be involved in the architectural, decisions, but we're pretty good either internally or with our partners of doing the development work. So is there a way that you could, just do that? So hopefully that will come soon. That is, again, a forward-looking statement. It doesn't exist today, but we are looking at releasing something like that later in the second half of this year. Let me, Chris just had another question. Let me take a look at it. One of the challenges I'm seeing in the industry is that the majority of customers using ServiceNow don't know the value offerings that they're entitled to within their own licensing SKU. MSPs seem to have some knowledge, but it's nowhere near what we see when attending Snow workshops. I suspect Impact Services might be a solution for that. Is there a better way to define available out-of-the-box solutions that might not have a cost associated with them? It seems that the release notes are all change focused, and it's very difficult to go from licensing SKU to entitlement. So I think the heart of this question is, how do we know what we're using versus what we're licensed for, and has that been optimized? And the answer is yes. Impact has actually a dashboard that shows you exactly that. And it actually has some machine learning and AI that give you some insights into where your undeployed entitlements might be best used and provide the most value set along with the Impact Squad. Now, having said that, as far as what is available to you at no cost, that would be a question for your account team. Typically, the solution consultants that work with you regularly are well versed at both your licensing and your entitlements, and they can build you a picture of what that looks like. And typically, it's a picture of all the different capabilities, color coded from licensed and used, unlicensed, and licensed and unused. And that typically, if you haven't seen that map, I would ask your solution consultant or your account executive if they could produce that and put it together. And I agree with you. The release notes are very change focused. Any other questions?
No, I don't see anything else in the chat unless it's lost in the regular chat instead of being in the Q&A. But if somebody has a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section so we can see it. No, looks like we don't have anything left to answer.
So for the to close out, I'll just close with how I started, which is to say thank you. Thank you for your interest and thank you for your time. It's an investment, and I certainly appreciate it. One challenge that I do have for each of you, since you came to this session and are interested in, our services organization, I would try and make sure that I spend at least an hour with my services account executive, every month. They do have a lot of insights and different perspectives than maybe your core account team. So if you don't know who your services account executive is, I would reach out to your account team or myself and ask that question. And then ask them to spend an hour with you just going over all of the ServiceNow services and capabilities that are available to you, so that you know what is available, right? I mean, that's the worst thing in the world, to find out that you could have solved a problem that you've been struggling with for a long time, but just didn't have the access to the right person. So that's my request and challenge for you guys, for your own benefit. Find out who that person is. They'd be happy to spend time with you and share with you impact services, training services, advisory services, implementation services, and take you through the whole portfolio of all the tools that are available to you to get the most out of your ServiceNow investment. At the end of the day, that's what we all want, is happy customers that are getting value from our platform. And that is our singular mission, both in expert services and across customer outcomes. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And please do take advantage of all the folks that are available to help you.